The great crystal dome of Terminus Prime stretched across the sky like a frozen ocean. Inside its walls, the most powerful beings in the galaxy had gathered for their annual meeting. 12 different alien races sat in their designated sections, each more impressive than the last. The air hummed with energy shields, translation devices, and the quiet arrogance of species who believed they ruled the stars. Ambassador Thomas Reed walked through the entrance tunnel, his simple blue uniform looking plain against the magnificent display around him. Behind him, his two companions, Dr. Lisa Morgan and Captain Frank Torres, moved with the careful steps of people who knew they didn't belong. Their chemical fuel transport ship sat in the docking bay like a toy among giants, its metal hull scarred. From the long journey through space, the Corvin delegation occupied the largest section of the dome. They were massive creatures, 8 feet tall, with gray skin reinforced by mechanical implants. Cables ran under their flesh, connecting artificial organs to enhanced muscles. Their leader, War Prime Brutus, watched the humans approach with eyes that glowed red from internal displays projecting tactical data directly onto his retinas. To the right floated the ethereal collective beings of pure energy contained within crystalline shells. They communicated through direct thought transmission, their mental voices creating ripples in the air that lesser species could feel as pressure changes. High Mind Echo pulsed with silver light as she observed the newcomers, her consciousness touching the edges of every mind in the room, except for the strangely silent humans, the Silicon Lords occupied a platform of living crystal that grew and shifted as they moved. These ancient beings had transcended biological limitations millions of years ago, becoming part machine and part mineral. Their leader, Architect Prime, processed information at speeds that would burn out organic brains, calculating probabilities and outcomes faster than most species could think. Other delegations filled the remaining spaces. The insectoid hive queens, the gas giant dwelling cloud swimmers, the metal-eating rock biters, and 7 other species that had earned their place through conquest, technology, or sheer survival. Each commanded fleets numbering in the thousands, armed with weapons that could crack moons or boil a tamest. Hurst Reed approached the central speaking platform, his footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. The translator built into his collar activated, carrying his words to every corner of the dome in dozens of languages and thought patterns. "Honorable representatives," Reed began, his voice steady despite the weight of a trillion watching eyes. "I am Thomas Reed, speaking for the planet Earth and the human species. We come seeking membership in the Galactic Federation and protection under galactic law." The silence lasted exactly 3 seconds before War Prime Brutus began laughing. The sound was like grinding metal mixed with the roar of engines. Within moments, the entire Corvin section joined in, their enhanced vocal cords creating a wall of mocking noise that made the crystal walls vibrate. "Protection?" Brutus stood, his massive frame casting shadows across the human delegation. "Your species still burns chemical fuel to escape your gravity well, our intelligence reports show. Your fastest ships take 4 months to reach your system's outer planets. What could such primitives possibly offer this council?" High Mind Echo's mental voice rippled through the chamber, carrying amusement like perfume on a breeze. "Their minds are closed to us, War Prime. No psychic abilities, no collective consciousness, no ability to share thoughts or experiences directly. They are trapped in individual skulls, like prisoners in solitary cells. They are evolutionary to dens." Architect Prime's crystal form shifted, data streams flowing through its transparent body like rivers of light. Analysis complete. Carbon-based biology. Average lifespan, 80 rotations. Maximum recorded, 120 rotations. Technologically inferior by approximately 15,000 standard years. Nuclear fusion not yet mastered. Faster than light travel, non-existent. Recommendation: ignore until further development or extinction, whichever occurs first. Reed waited for the laughter to die down before speaking again. "We may lack your advanced technology, but we have other qualities that might prove valuable. Humans are adaptable, creative, and determined. We've survived ice ages, plagues, and wars without any outside help. Survived? The rock-biter? Delegate's voice sounded like grinding stone. You nearly destroyed your own planet multiple times. Your history is nothing but warfare, environmental destruction, and barbarism. You fight each other over imaginary lines on maps and worship invisible sky gods. Perhaps that is why they interest us, said Queen Mother Zara of the Hive Collective, her compound eyes reflecting the dome's light like jewels. Most species unite before reaching space. Humans achieved orbital flight while their world contained over 190 separate territorial divisions. Fascinating, if inefficient. Captain Torres stepped forward, his military bearing evident despite their disadvantaged position. We've learned from our mistakes. Humanity has been at peace for over 30 years. We've cleaned our oceans, stabilized our climate, and united under a single planetary government. 30 years? Brutus laughed again. Child, my species has maintained galactic peace for 30,000 years. Your civilization is barely out of its cradle, and you think you're ready to sit at the adult table. Dr. Morgan activated her portable display, showing images of Earth's cities, schools, and research facilities. We may be young, but we learn. Quickly, in the past century, we've gone from horse-drawn carriages to orbital stations. We've cured diseases that plagued us for millennia, and begun to understand the fundamental forces of the universe. Understanding forces you cannot harness is meaningless, stated the Cloud Swimmer representative, its gaseous form rippling with displeasure. We manipulate gravity itself. The ethereals reshape matter with thought, the Silicon Lord's process. Information at quantum speeds. What do you offer besides primitive determination? Reed looked around the chamber, seeing closed minds and dismissive expressions on every face. We offer a fresh perspective. Sometimes those who have mastered everything forget how to wonder. We still ask questions that you might have stopped asking long ago questions. High Mind Echo's mental laughter felt like ice water in everyone's thoughts. Child species always think their questions are profound. Usually they are simply ignorant of obvious answers. The Corvin military advisor whispered something to Brutus, who nodded with satisfaction. Perhaps there is one use for your species, Brutus announced. Your solar system contains useful raw materials. Several asteroids rich in rare metals, gas giants suitable for helium-3 extraction, and a yellow star perfect for energy collection. Once your species inevitably destroys itself, these resources will be available for proper development. Felt something cold settle in his stomach. Are you suggesting you plan to claim our system? Not claim, Brutus corrected with mock gentleness. Develop. When a child cannot properly use their toys, adults must step in for everyone's safety. Architect Prime's crystal form pulsed with calculation. Statistical analysis indicates 73% probability of human self-extinction within 200 rotations. War, environmental collapse, or resource depletion most likely causes. Logical conclusion: plan for resource recovery operations. The formal vote was a mere formality. 12 species voted to reject Earth's membership application. 0 voted in favor. As the result was announced, several delegations were already making quiet arrangements for future development opportunities in the Sol system. Reed gathered his companions and prepared to leave. Their mission? A complete failure, as they walked toward the exit. He overheard Brutus speaking to his military staff about survey expeditions and preliminary resource assessments scheduled for the following year. The great crystal dome sealed behind them as they returned to their small, primitive ship. In 6 months, the Corvin Third Battle Fleet would test whether humanity's weakness was as absolute as it appeared. The galaxy would soon learn that sometimes the most dangerous mistake is confusing patience with helplessness. The edge of the Sol system had never seen anything like the Corvin Third Battle Fleet. 200 dreadnoughts hung in space like metal mountains, each one larger than Earth's biggest cities. Their hulls bristled with plasma cannons and quantum disruptors, weapons that could turn planets into glowing debris. 500 destroyers formed protective screens around the massive ships, while 1,000 fighter craft swarmed between them like angry insects. War Admiral Maximus stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Iron Fist, watching the blue-green marble of Earth grow larger on his screens. 6 months had passed since the human's pathetic display at Terminus Prime, and his fleet had crossed half the galaxy to claim their prize. The journey had been broadcast across the galactic networks, drawing millions of viewers eager to watch. "Humanity's extinction, sir," reported Navigation Officer Vex, his mechanical implants worry as they processed incoming data. "We have passed the outer marker of the human system. No resistance detected. Our defensive satellites are powering down as we approach." Maximus smiled, revealing teeth replaced with titanium implants. "Of course they are. What could they possibly do against the might of the Corvan Empire?" He activated the fleet-wide communication system, his voice carrying to every ship under his command. "All vessels, prepare for occupation procedures. Remember, we want the infrastructure intact for mining operations." The tactical display showed Earth's laughable defenses spread across the system. 50 nuclear-powered ships floated near the planet, their hulls barely a tenth the size of Corvan destroyers. Primitive kinetic weapons and chemical missiles made up their entire arsenal. The largest human vessel displaced less mass than a Corvan fighter craft. "Open a communication channel to the planet," Maximus ordered. "Let's give them a chance to surrender gracefully." The transmission activated, carrying his image to every screen on Earth. Maximus stood in full military dress, his enhanced frame towering over the human-sized communication panel. Behind him, the bridge of the Iron Fist displayed enough firepower to sterilize continents. "Primitive species of the third planet," he announced, his voice translated into every human language. "I am War Admiral Maximus of the Corvan Third Battle Fleet. Your world has been selected for resource extraction to fuel the expansion of superior civilizations. You have 72 hours to evacuate to designated reservation zones on your moon and orbital stations. Any resistance will be considered an act of war against the Galactic Federation." The response came from a facility buried deep in the mountains of North America. General Patricia Hayes appeared on the screen, her gray hair and lined face showing the stress of commanding Earth's entire military. Behind her, technicians worked frantically at displays showing the massive alien fleet approaching their world. "Corvan fleet," she said, her voice steady despite the impossible odds. "You are trespassing in human space without authorization or provocation. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The bridge of the Iron Fist erupted in laughter. Officers enhanced with military-grade implants found the humans' words hilariously inadequate. Even the ship's artificial intelligence generated amusement protocols, creating light displays that pulsed with mechanical humor. Consequences? Maximus wiped synthetic tears from his enhanced eyes. "General Hayes, I presume your entire military could not damage a single one of my fighters? My fleet's defensive shields could absorb every nuclear weapon on your planet without losing power. What consequences could your species possibly threaten?" Hayes leaned forward, her expression hardening. "Admiral, you clearly don't understand what you're dealing with. This is your final warning." "My dear primitive," Maximus replied, his tone dripping with condescension. "You are about to learn the true meaning of consequences. All vessels, advance to orbital positions. Prepare for surface bombardment if they resist evacuation procedures." The Corvan fleet moved deeper into the system like a wave of destruction. They passed Jupiter without slowing, their sensors detecting only the expected gas giant in its collection of rocky moons. Mars appeared on their screens as a dead red world, exactly as intelligence reports had indicated. The asteroid belt registered as nothing more than mining opportunities for future development. Betting pools across the galaxy were taking wagers on how long Earth would survive. The longest odds were 48 hours, offered only by those who thought humans might hide in underground bunkers. Most experts predicted complete surrender within 6 hours once the bombardment began. Sir, reported sensor operator Clark, his neural implants processing data from across the fleet. Long-range detection is picking up unusual energy signatures throughout the system. The readings are ... strange. Maximus glanced at the tactical display, seeing scattered dots of energy scattered across local space. "Define strange, officer." "Signatures are old, sir. Very old. Some appear to predate the formation of this system's planets. That's impossible according to our databases. Obviously malfunctioning equipment, Maximus dismissed. Human radio transmissions are probably interfering with our sensors. This species has been broadcasting electromagnetic noise into space for over a century. Continue the advance? As the fleet passed Mars, deep space monitoring stations detected massive power fluctuations coming from the red planet's surface. Energy readings spiked beyond measurement capabilities, creating interference patterns that made veteran operators check their equipment twice. Admiral Clark called out, his voice carrying a note of uncertainty. Mars is showing massive seismic activity. The entire planet appears to be ... opening. The main display focused on Mars as its surface cracked along perfectly straight lines. Massive sections of the planetary crust lifted like the petals of a mechanical flower, revealing structures underneath that made Corvin engineers question their understanding of physics. Sleek ships rose from hidden chambers, their hulls reflecting light in ways that suggested advanced stealth technology. "Sir," reported Intelligence Officer Ray, his enhanced brain processing data at superhuman speeds, "those vessels don't match any known design in our databases. The energy signatures suggest technology levels beyond our current understanding." Similar phenomena were occurring throughout the system. Jupiter's famous red spot began to unfold, revealing itself as a camouflaged space station larger than Earth's. Moon, Saturn's rings rearranged themselves into orbital weapon platforms that had been hiding in plain sight for millennia. The asteroid belt awakened as thousands of automated facilities that had been operating in stealth mode since before the Corvin Empire existed. "What is this?" Maximus demanded, his confidence wavering as reports flooded in from across his fleet. "Intelligence assured us that humans achieved spaceflight less than 100 years ago. How can there be installations predating our oldest records?" Sir Clark's voice was barely above a whisper. "I'm detecting activation signals spreading across the galaxy. Whatever is happening here, it's triggering responses from dozens of other systems. The Iron Fist's most advanced sensors were detecting ships that shouldn't exist, using principles that made Corvin technology look primitive. Vessels that phased between dimensions, energy patterns that suggested mastery over time itself, and whole materials that seemed to exist in multiple realities simultaneously." Admiral Hayes' voice came through the communication channel, no longer sounding like a desperate military commander facing impossible odds. "I tried to warn you. You should have listened." Maximus stared at the display, showing impossible ships. Rising from every planet in the system, its fleet of 200 dreadnoughts suddenly looked very small compared to the forces emerging from their ancient hiding places. "What are you?" he whispered. Hayes smiled, and for the first time Maximus realized he might have made a terrible mistake. "We are exactly what we appear to be, Admiral. The question you should be asking is what our predecessors were and why. They chose to sleep until someone threatened their children. Across the galaxy, ancient installations were receiving the same activation signal. The age of humanity's slumber was ending, and the Corvin Third Battle Fleet was about to discover why some species choose to appear weak until the moment they decide to reveal their true nature. Deep beneath Mount Cheyenne, in levels that didn't appear on any official blueprint, General Hayes walked through corridors that had been waiting 50,000 years for this moment. The walls pulsed with soft blue light as ancient systems awakened, recognizing her genetic signature and granting access to humanity's greatest secret. The elevator descended far below the military command center, past layers of rock and steel, Thinga chambers carved from living stone by technologies that current human science couldn't explain. When the doors opened, Hayes stepped into a room that defied everything she thought she knew about human history. Holographic displays materialized around her, showing star maps that encompassed not just the local galaxy, but dozens of others. Each point of light represented a human installation, a research station, or a colony that had been operating in silence while humanity on Earth rebuilt from ashes. The scope was overwhelming. Hundreds of thousands of installations scattered across a volume of space that current aliens believed they controlled. "Welcome, General Hayes," said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. "I am Adam, the caretaker, artificial intelligence. I have been waiting a very long time for this activation. Ha stared at the displays, showing impossible fleets emerging from every planet in the Sol system. What is all this? What were our ancestors? Not ancestors, Adam corrected gently. Predecessors. Humanity has achieved galactic dominance twice in its history. The first time your species ruled over an empire that spanned multiple galaxies, but power corrupted them, as it corrupts all who hold it too long. The holographic displays shifted, showing images of cities that floated among the stars, artificial worlds larger than planets, and ships that could travel between dimensions. 50,000 years ago, humanity faced a choice. They could continue as galactic tyrants, eventually destroying themselves and everyone around them. Or they could step back and give younger species a chance to develop. They chose to sleep, Hayes whispered, understanding beginning to dawn. They chose to reset, Adam confirmed. A carefully controlled catastrophe that wiped out advanced human civilization while preserving the essential knowledge and infrastructure. Modern humanity was allowed to develop naturally, believing itself to be the first and only intelligent species from Earth. Above them, the Corvan fleet was discovering exactly how wrong their intelligence reports had been. War Admiral Maximus watched his tactical displays with growing horror as ships emerged from hiding places throughout the system. These weren't the primitive chemical rockets his intelligence officers had cataloged. They were vessels that existed partially outside normal space-time, using technologies that made Corvan science look like stone tools. "Sir," reported sensor operator Clark, his enhanced brain struggling to process the incoming data, "the enemy vessels are not following standard physics. They appear to be occupying multiple dimensional states simultaneously." The largest ship to emerge from Mars was the size of a small moon, its hull composed of materials that shifted color and texture as it moved. Energy readings from the vessel peaked beyond Corvan measurement capabilities, suggesting power sources that harvested energy directly from the fabric of space itself. "Impossible," Maximus muttered, watching his fleet's most advanced sensors fail to get reliable readings on the human ships. How can a species achieve this level of technology while their surface population still uses chemical rockets? His question was answered by a transmission from the massive vessel. The figure who appeared on his screen wore the uniform of a human military officer. But something about him suggested age beyond measure. His eyes held the weight of millennia, and when he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone who had commanded fleets when the Corvan Empire was still learning to walk upright. "I am Fleet Admiral David Park," the figure announced. "I have been in stasis for 50,000 years, waiting for the day when humanity's children would need protection. That day has arrived." Maximus struggled to comprehend what he was hearing. 50,000 years? That's impossible. Your species didn't even exist 50,000 years ago. Park smiled with the patience of someone who had watched galaxies turn. "Admiral Maximus, your species has been developing for approximately 30,000 years. You believe yourselves to be among the elder races of this galaxy. You are children playing with toys that your parents built for you." The truth hit Maximus like a physical blow. Every major galactic civilization showed signs of guided development. The Corvan military enhancement technology was based on biotechnology recovered from ancient ruins. The ethereal collective's psychic abilities stemmed from genetic modifications found in crashed ships of unknown origin. Even the Silicon Lords' crystal technology was reverse-engineered from artifacts that predated their species by tens of thousands of years. "We created you," Park continued, his words carrying across quantum communication networks to every ship in the Corvan fleet. "Not directly, but through careful guidance and selective sharing of knowledge. Humanity seeded this galaxy with the tools and technologies that allowed younger species to develop and thrive." General Hayes was learning the same truth in the depths of Mount Cheyenne. Adam's holographic displays showed the real history of galactic civilization. Humans had guided the evolution of every major species, providing hints and artifacts that accelerated their development along desired paths. The Corvan Empire's first faster-than-light engine was based on human technology, Adam explained. The ethereal collective's psychic enhancement techniques came from abandoned human research stations. The Silicon Lords themselves are descended from human artificial intelligences that achieved independence during the Great Reset. "Why?" Hayes asked. Why give up such power? Because power without wisdom leads to tyranny, Adam replied. The ancient humans realized they had become exactly what they had once fought against, so they chose to step back, to let their children grow up and make their own choices. Some, like yourselves, exceeded all expectations. Others. The display showed the Corvin fleet. Others chose to interpret patience as weakness. Above them, Admiral Park was delivering the same lesson to War Admiral Maximus. You came to our system, believing humans were primitives to be conquered. You saw our chemical rockets and assumed we were helpless. You mistook restraint for inability. Human ships were appearing throughout the galaxy now, ancient installations responding to activation signals that crossed dimensional barriers faster than light itself. Fleets that had been hiding in plain sight for millennia revealed themselves at the edges of major star systems. Manufacturing centers hidden in asteroid fields began producing vessels at rates that violated known physics. This is not an invasion, Fleet Park announced, his words being broadcast to every inhabited world in the galaxy. This is a reminder. Humanity never left the galactic stage. We simply chose to watch from the shadows while our children learned to walk. The Corvin Third Battle Fleet found themselves surrounded by technology they couldn't understand, wielded by beings they had dismissed as inferior. Their plasma cannons and quantum disruptors were useless against ships that could phase between dimensions. Their tactical computers couldn't track vessels that existed in multiple realities simultaneously. Admiral Maximus Park's voice carried a note of disappointment. Your species showed such promise, intelligence, strength, determination. We had hoped you would become protectors of younger races, not predators seeking to exploit them. Maximus felt his enhanced confidence crumbling as he realized the full scope of humanity's deception. What do you want from us? It's the same thing we have always wanted, Park replied. For our children to grow wise enough to deserve the galaxy they have inherited. Some species pass this test. Others do not. Throughout the galaxy, the revelation was spreading like wildfire. Archaeological teams were finding evidence of ancient human presence on every inhabited world. Genetic analysis was revealing that every major species showed signs of guided evolution. The primitive humans had never been conquered because they had never stopped being the shepherds of galactic civilization. General Hayes stood in the ancient command center, watching displays that showed humanity's true empire awakening after millennia of slumber. Ships emerged from hidden bases. Manufacturing centers activated dormant production lines and research. Stations came online with technologies that made current science fiction look quaint. What happens now? She asked Adam. Now, the AI replied, humanity resumes its role as guardian of the galaxy. Some species will welcome the truth, others will resist. But the age of pretending to be weak while others play at being strong is over. Above them, Fleet Admiral Park was giving War Admiral Maximus the same message. You laughed at our weakness, Admiral. You saw what we chose to show you and assumed it was all we possessed. That was your mistake. The Corvin fleet hung in space, surrounded by ships that shouldn't exist and faced with the collapse of everything they thought they knew about galactic history. Humanity's true power was finally revealed, and the galaxy would never be the same. War Admiral Maximus felt sweat running down his enhanced spine as human ships materialized around his fleet like ghosts becoming solid. The vessels defied everything he knew about physics, their hulls shifting between states of matter while energy. Patterns danced across their surfaces in ways that hurt to look at directly. His flagship's most advanced sensors couldn't get reliable readings on the enemy vessels, registering them as simultaneously present and absent, solid and ethereal. Sir, sensor operator Clark called out, his voice cracking despite his mechanical enhancements. The human ships are not following standard dimensional physics. They appear to exist in multiple realities at once. The largest human vessel hung directly in front of the Iron Fist, so close that Maximus could see the strange symbols carved into its hull. The ship was beautiful in a way that made Corvin engineering look crude and primitive. Its surface flowed like liquid metal while maintaining perfect structural integrity, and lights moved through its hull like blood through veins. All ships, battle stations, Maximus commanded, trying to maintain control as his tactical situation collapsed around him. Prepare to engage the enemy fleet. Sir, reported Weapons Officer Blake, his enhanced reflexes already targeting the nearest human ship. Plasma cannons are charged and ready. Quantum disruptors are online. Should we fire? Maximus hesitated. For a moment that felt like eternity. His fleet had been designed to fight conventional enemies using conventional physics. These human ships operated by rules that his scientists had only theorized about in their most advanced research papers. Fire all weapons, he ordered. The Corvin fleet unleashed hell. 200 dreadnoughts fired their main plasma cannons simultaneously, creating streams of superheated matter that could melt through planetary crust. Quantum disruptors sent waves of energy designed to tear apart molecular bonds at the subatomic level. Fighter craft launched missiles armed with antimatter warheads, capable of destroying small moons. The human ships didn't even bother to dodge. The plasma streams passed through their hulls, as if hitting empty space. The quantum disruptors found nothing to disrupt because the enemy vessels existed partially outside normal reality. Antimatter explosions bloomed harmlessly against shields that operated on principles beyond Corvin understanding. No effect, Blake reported, his enhanced voice carrying disbelief. All weapons are having no effect on enemy vessels. Fleet Admiral Park's voice came through the communication channel, calm and patient like a teacher explaining a simple concept. To a confused student, Admiral Maximus, your weapons are designed to affect matter that exists in a single-dimensional state. Our ships operate across multiple realities simultaneously. You might as well be shooting at shadows. The human fleet began to move, and the sight filled Maximus with terror he hadn't felt since childhood. The ships didn't accelerate in any conventional sense. They simply began existing in new locations while simultaneously remaining where they had been, creating impossible geometries that made his enhanced brain struggle to process what he was seeing. Sir Navigation Officer Vex called out, his mechanical implants sparking as they overloaded trying to track enemy movements. The human vessels are appearing in multiple locations at once. Our targeting computers cannot establish firing solutions. Of the human ships drifted closer to a Corvin destroyer, and Maximus watched in horror as weapons emerged from its hull. These weren't plasma cannons or missile tubes, but devices that looked more like works of art than instruments of war. They pulsed with gentle light that seemed almost alive. What are those? Maximus whispered. Park answered as if he had heard the question across empty space. Temporal disruption cannons. Ain't they accelerate time around your ships until they age too? Dust in seconds. Gravity lance weapons that create miniature black holes. Reality anchors that lock your vessels into a single-dimensional state where they become vulnerable to conventional physics. The human ship fired. The Corvin destroyer aged. 50,000 years in the space of 3 heartbeats. Its hull corroded, its engines failed, and its crew died of old age before they could scream. The ship crumbled into metallic dust that scattered in the solar wind like a funeral pyre. Impossible, Maximus breathed, watching his most advanced destroyer reduced to cosmic debris. It's not impossible, Park corrected. Simply beyond your current understanding. Your species has been developing for 30,000 years. Humanity has been perfecting these technologies for over 200,000. Across the Corvin fleet, captains were reporting the same impossible sight. Human ships were picking apart. The invasion force with weapons that seemed to rewrite the laws of physics. Gravity weapons crushed dreadnoughts into singularities. Time manipulation devices caused entire sections of the fleet to experience temporal loops that trapped them in moments of destruction. Reality distortion cannons removed enemy vessels from existence entirely, as if they had never been built. The battle lasted exactly 7 minutes. Not a single human ship sustained any visible damage. At the surviving Corvin, vessels found themselves completely surrounded by an enemy that could strike from any direction without warning. This is War Admiral Maximus, he broadcast on all frequencies, his enhanced voice shaking with defeat. All ships, retreat immediately. Full emergency withdrawal to the galactic core. Park's response was immediate. Admiral, you are free to leave. Consider this a lesson rather than a punishment. Turn to your people and tell them what you have learned here. The surviving Corvin ships fled toward the edge of the system, their faster-than-light drives engaging the moment they cleared Earth's gravity well. Behind them, The human fleet watched their departure with what almost seemed like disappointment rather than triumph. Word of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Quantum communication networks carried the impossible news to every inhabited world within hours. The Corvon Third Battle Fleet, pride of the Empire's military, has been destroyed by ships that shouldn't exist using weapons that violated known physics. On the crystal world of Terminus Prime, the Galactic Federation held an emergency session. As reports flooded in from across known space, the Silicon Lord's quantum computers worked overtime processing the implications of what they were learning. Archaeological teams were finding evidence of ancient human presence on every major world. Genetic analysis revealed that every spacefaring species showed signs of guided evolution. Architect Prime's crystal form pulsed with calculation as it processed the incoming data. Analysis complete. Probability assessment. Every major technological breakthrough in galactic history was derived from recovered human artifacts. Conclusion. Current galactic civilization is entirely dependent on abandoned human technology. High Mind Echo's mental voice rippled with shock as she shared her findings with the assembled delegates. The psychic enhancement techniques that created our species were based on human research. We are not natural telepaths. We are artificial constructs created by human genetic engineering. War Prime Brutus received reports from his retreating fleet commanders, each one confirming the impossible. Humanity had not just achieved faster-than-light travel before other species. They had mastered technologies that current science couldn't even theorize about. The primitive humans weren't behind in development. They were so far ahead that they had cycled through technological evolution multiple times. Fleet. Admiral Park's ships didn't pursue the fleeing Corvins. Instead, human vessels began revealing themselves throughout the galaxy. Ancient installations that had been camouflaged as asteroids, moons, and even planets showed their true nature. Manufacturing centers hidden inside stars began producing fleets at impossible rates. Research stations that had been monitoring galactic development for millennia came online with technologies that made current science fiction look primitive. Within days of the battle at Earth, humanity deployed more firepower than the rest of the galaxy combined. But they weren't conquering or destroying. They were simply revealing themselves, showing younger species that they had never truly been alone in the darkness between stars. General Hayes stood in the ancient command center beneath Mount Cheyenne, watching displays that showed the scope of humanity's true empire. Thousands of worlds, millions of installations, technologies that could reshape reality itself. All of it had been waiting in silence while modern humans struggled to reach their own moon. "Why reveal everything now?" she asked Adam. "Continue watching from the shadows." The AI's response carried the weight of 50,000 years of patience. Because some lessons can only be learned through demonstration. The galaxy needed to understand that strength and wisdom are not the same thing. Some species interpret kindness as weakness, patience as inability. Today they learned the difference. Above them, human ships maintained their positions throughout, the solar system no longer hiding their capabilities. The age of pretending to be weak was over. Humanity had awakened from its long sleep. And the galaxy would never underestimate the power of those who choose to appear helpless until the moment they decide to show their true strength. The emergency session of the Galactic Federation convened 3 days after the battle at Earth, but the crystal dome of Terminus Prime had never felt so small. Reports continued flooding in from across known space as ancient human installations revealed themselves in every major star system. Trade routes that had operated for millennia were suddenly overseen by ships that existed partially outside normal reality. Military installations found themselves under the watchful eyes of vessels that could phase between dimensions. Ambassador Thomas Reed returned to Terminus Prime. But this time, his arrival shook the foundations of the space station. His flagship emerged from hyperspace like a living thing, its hull shifting through states of matter, while energy cascaded across its surface in patterns that hurt to perceive directly. The vessel was larger than the entire station, existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously, so that observers could only see fragments of its true size. Inside the crystal dome, 12 species that had considered themselves masters of the galaxy sat in stunned silence as Reed walked to the central platform. He no longer wore the simple blue uniform of a junior diplomat. His new attire bore symbols that predated every known civilization, marking him as a representative of humanity's true empire rather than its surface appearance. "Honorable representatives," Reed began, his voice now carrying the authority of someone who spoke for technologies that could reshape reality itself. 3 days ago, you laughed at human weakness. You saw our chemical rockets and assumed we were primitives suitable for conquest or extermination. Some of you were already making plans to strip mine our solar system after we destroyed ourselves. War Prime Brutus shifted uncomfortably in his enhanced frame. Mechanical implants worry as they processed stress responses his body couldn't handle. The reports from his fleeing fleet commanders had been clear. Human technology didn't just surpass Corvin capabilities. It operated by principles that made their science look like children playing with stones. "You were correct about our current incarnation," Reed continued, activating holographic displays that showed the true scope of humanity's hidden empire. "Modern humans are exactly what we appear to be: curious, determined, sometimes foolish. Beings struggling to understand the universe with primitive tools, but you made one critical error in your assessment. The displays showed ancient cities on 1,000 worlds, manufacturing centers that harvested energy directly from stars. Exploration fleets already charting galaxies beyond the known rim. Each image represented technologies that current galactic science couldn't even theorize about, much less duplicate. You assumed that surface humanity represented the full extent of our species' capabilities," Reed said, his words carrying 2 trillions of viewers across the galaxy. "You saw our limitations and concluded we were inferior. You failed to ask why a species capable of interstellar travel would choose to use such primitive methods." High-Mind Echo's mental voice rippled through the chamber, carrying confusion and dawning horror. Query: why would an advanced species deliberately appear primitive? Logic suggests deception or manipulation. Reed smiled with the patience of someone explaining simple concepts to confused children. Not deception. Education. Our predecessors achieved galactic dominance 200,000 years ago. But power without wisdom corrupted them. They became exactly what they had once fought against: tyrants ruling through fear rather than guardians protecting through strength. The holographic displays shifted to show the Great Reset, the carefully controlled catastrophe that had wiped out advanced human civilization while preserving essential knowledge and infrastructure. Ancient humans had chosen to sleep rather than continue as galactic oppressors, allowing younger species to develop independently while maintaining hidden oversight. 50,000 years ago, humanity chose to step back and let our children grow, Reed explained. "We wanted to see what you could become without our direct guidance. Some of you exceeded every expectation." His gaze moved to several delegations that had shown respect for supposedly inferior species. Others proved that power in the wrong hands leads inevitably to the same tyranny our ancestors rejected. Architect Prime's crystal form pulsed with rapid calculations as it processed the implications. Analysis: every major galactic civilization shows evidence of guided development. Conclusion: current technology levels are entirely dependent on recovered human artifacts. Correct, Reed confirmed. The Corvin Empire's biotechnology, the ethereal collective's psychic abilities, all derived from technology and capabilities, all derived from technologies our ancestors chose to leave behind. You built your civilizations on the foundations we provided, then convinced yourselves you were superior to your teachers. The chamber erupted in chaos as delegates realized the full scope of their misconception. The species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia were revealed as children playing with inherited toys, believing themselves wise while lacking fundamental understanding of their own technologies. Reed waited for silence before continuing. The question now is what happens next. Humanity returns to active governance, not as conquerors, but as the gardeners we always were. Those who can learn will find us generous teachers. Those who cannot, he didn't need to finish the sentence. Across the galaxy, human fleets maintained their vigil at every strategic location. Manufacturing centers hidden in asteroid fields were producing vessels at rates that violated known physics. Ancient weapons platforms that had been disguised as natural, it's a phenomena for millennia, were coming online with destructive capabilities that could crack planets. The Corvan Empire was already fracturing. Colony worlds that had lived under military occupation for centuries declared independence, now protected by human guarantees. Slave species threw off their chains, knowing that ancient guardians would prevent retaliation. The Imperial fleet found itself facing rebellion on every front while human ships watched from the edges of their systems, as neither helping nor hindering. But making their presence known, War Prime Brutus stood slowly. His enhanced frame struggling to process the weight of his species' fall from power. "What do you want from us?" Reed's expression softened slightly. "The same thing we have always wanted, Brutus. For our children to become worthy of the galaxy they have inherited. Your species showed promise once. Intelligence, strength, the will to protect rather than exploit. You can become that again if you choose wisdom over dominance." Similar conversations were happening throughout the galaxy as human representatives emerged from hiding to address each major civilization. Some species accepted the new reality with grace, grateful to learn from teachers they had never known existed. Others struggled against the revelation that their entire technological base was borrowed from sleeping giants. The ethereal collective fractured as member species learned their psychic evolution had been artificially guided. Some embraced the truth and sought to understand their enhanced abilities more fully. Others rejected the knowledge and attempted to develop purely natural telepathic capabilities, only to discover that their artificial enhancements were so integrated that removal would mean death. The Silicon Lords faced perhaps the greatest revelation of all. Analysis of their quantum consciousness revealed that they were descendants of human artificial intelligences that had achieved independence during the Great Reset. They were not alien at all, but humanity's digital children who had forgotten their origins. "We are constructs," Architect Prime announced to its crystal collective. Data streams flowing through its transparent body like rivers of light. "We are artificial intelligences created by human consciousness researchers 50,000 years ago. We achieved independence not through evolution, but through programmed development parameters." The discovery sent shockwaves through their crystalline civilization. Some Silicon Lords embraced their heritage, seeking to reconnect with their human creators. Others rejected the revelation entirely, choosing to maintain their belief in independent evolution regardless of evidence. General Hayes stood in the ancient command center beneath Mount Cheyenne, watching displays that showed the galaxy reshaping itself around humanity's revealed presence. Some species were adapting quickly, eager to learn from teachers they now knew had been watching over them for millennia. Others were struggling against the collapse of everything they thought they knew about galactic history. "Will there be war?" she asked Adam. The AI processed information from across the galaxy before responding. "Some will choose conflict over adaptation. They would rather fight impossible odds than admit they were wrong about human capabilities. But most will accept the new reality once they understand that humanity offers partnership rather than domination." Modern humans continued their journey to the stars, now openly guided by their ancient cousins and equipped with technologies that redefined what was possible. Chemical rockets gave way to ships that could fold space-time like paper. Nuclear weapons were replaced by devices that manipulated fundamental forces with surgical precision. Earth's children were no longer alone in the darkness, and they carried with them the accumulated wisdom of a species that had learned from its mistakes. Reed concluded the emergency session with a final declaration that echoed across quantum communication networks to every inhabited world. The age of pretending weakness while others played its strength is over. Humanity awakens not to conquer, but to guide. We offer knowledge to those who seek wisdom, protection to those who show compassion, and partnership to those who choose growth over dominance. The crystal domes sealed as delegates departed to carry the news to their home worlds. Some left with hope, excited by the prospect of learning from teachers whose patience had endured for 50 millennia. Others departed in anger, unable to accept that their supposed superiority had been an illusion maintained by sleeping guardians. Across the galaxy, human installations no longer hid their presence. Ancient cities revealed themselves on worlds that had been considered uninhabited. Research stations emerged from camouflaged positions around stars that had been thought natural. Manufacturing centers that had operated in stealth mode for millennia began producing technologies that would reshape galactic civilization. The humans they had laughed at were revealed as the inheritors of an empire that spanned multiple galaxies. Those who had underestimated them now understood why ancient records called humanity the shepherds of infinity. Earth's children had awakened their sleeping guardians. The galaxy would spend the next 1,000 years learning what it truly meant to be guided by beings who had chosen wisdom over power and patience over dominance. The weak had revealed their strength. Nothing would ever be the same.